Hello, today I'm going to be talking about the Trecena of Ajmak, and well, it's all about forgiveness, isn't it? So I'm going to be forgiving the bombers which are going off right now. It's the day 13 Tikin, it's the day Oshlahut Tikin. I was hoping to capture the bird sounds down here, but instead we have fireworks. So I guess Ajmak is making its presence known, helping us to remember how to forgive. And, you know, as we go through the calendar, everything is about cycles of growth. It's about the development of our soul as we kind of like put another layer onto our experience, onto our learning as we go through. And, of course, these layers, they're, you know, growth experiences, we might call them sometimes. And sometimes we have enjoyable growth experiences, and sometimes they might not be quite so enjoyable. And what we would find within the Trecenas even is that we might have a Trecena which has a bit of everything in it. We couldn't say that there is one where it's just like 13-day period where everything is like awesome and everything's great and this kind of thing. Everybody has their ups and downs throughout it, and then you also have your own personal wave, your own personal energy that runs through that cycle as well. So, Ajmak, well, you know, I think hopefully you've been seeing enough of these videos, you've heard enough from me, or you've maybe read my page enough times to understand a bit about what Ajmak is about. And there are several of the Nawales which can look quite dualistic in nature, in that they're like let's say the challenges and the benefits are quite diverse, are quite separated from each other. Some are like a little bit more kind of like towing a middle line, or some might be kind of like more easier to work with, and some really require, let's say, a little bit of navigation, a little bit of thought before you fully go into it. And I could consider that Ajmak might well be one of them. Ajmak is about forgiveness, and in order to forgive, of course, this means that we're going to have something to forgive or to be forgiven for, because it represents the both things. And so, as such, it may be a time when you have to really go into your heart. You have to really think about what's going on. It may well be a time to think or to feel before reacting to something, because, you know, Ajmak, like sometimes our forgiveness, or what we need to ask for forgiveness for, is when we either overreact or have a knee-jerk reaction to something which kind of like ends up getting blown out of proportion and ends up being something which is way worse than it could have been if we'd have just centered ourselves, grounded, listened to our heart, and gone with a little bit of feeling instead. Okay? So, as I say, it might not be the easiest Trecena to navigate, but remember that Ajmak is all about what it is to be a human. It's like what it is to be fallible, what it is just to be living. Just to walk through life the best we can and say, hey, this is me. Like, I know I'm not perfect. I don't think, you know, any of us is perfect. There are some people that may be closer to perfection than others, but like everybody's perfect in different people's eyes. You know, it's we've all got our crosses to bear, as it were. We've all got our ways of being. And sometimes we make mistakes. So here's a great opportunity to ask for forgiveness for those mistakes. Now, as we go through, we just went through 7 Ajmak 20 days ago. So 7 Ajmak was that final forgiveness, kind of like wiping the slate clean. And then 1 Ajmak, well, this is something new. This is one going into a birth, going into the beginning of a forgiveness process. So it may be something new that comes into your life, a new way of looking at something that says, you know what, okay, I had that happen, but here's a new way of looking at it. Here's a new way of understanding it through the heart rather than through the mind, perhaps. as humans, this is maybe what we're called on to do. Because when Ajmak embraces its highest aspect, it's embracing the sweetness of the human heart. It's embracing what it is to truly be human. Because we can't just be here and expect everything to go right all the time. It would be great if it did, right? I mean, we'd all love it to be the easy path, the smooth path, but that's not where we learn. And sometimes things have to fall over so we understand how to bring them back up again. And so this is what this Trecena may be about. It's about understanding how to possibly correct mistakes that we've made, or at least understand how and why we made them, and how to either make a different choice next time, or how to repair it. Ajmak is a lot about repairing. Ajmak has a great deal of creativity, and that creativity comes from the heart. Now, if we sit in a place of judgment, if we sit in a place of negativity, if we sit in a place of guilt or shame or blame, all of those kind of key words that are associated with Ajmak, then the chances are we're not embracing our human heart, and that's going to stifle our creativity. So we get into this kind of like negative little bubble, little black cloud sitting over in the corner, brooding over how things went wrong and why is it me again and all that kind of thing. When instead we could be looking at it and saying, right, okay, what am I going to take from this? How am I going to develop from this? I'm being given this opportunity. Maybe it's something which is coming around again. And this is a new opportunity to forgive, a new opportunity to understand how to integrate it, a new opportunity to work out a different way of working with something, to work out a different way of forgiving, work out a different way of working with what you've given rather than what you expected. Okay, so as I say, as you can tell from that there's a possibility that this might not be the easiest thing to do. There's a possibility that we might have to face up to some things that we didn't want to face up to. Maybe some things that we'd been like hoping were forgotten or swept under the carpet in some way. Now they're coming up. Now they're being born into the world. They're being born into the light in order to forgive them so that we can grow and so that we can truly embrace the sweetness of being a human, whether that's about us or whether it's about somebody else. Okay, so on this one Ajmak day, it's not to say that you necessarily have to go looking for something to forgive, but be aware that this might come in as an opportunity. There's something new, and it's about learning about your heart and learning about the creativity that can come from it when you breathe, relax, and remember that you and everybody around you is human. You and everybody around you is fallible, and things might not go the way that you planned. Okay, so learn to be a human, learn to live in the moment, learn to forgive in the moment. Learn to breathe, center, relax, smile, and move on. So, from one Ajmak, we're then going to go into two Noch. So, Noch, the brain, the thought, the idea. Okay? Noch, I often see as representing the left hemisphere of the brain. It's the logical side. It's the side that drives the right-hand part of the body. And so it's about putting things in order. It's about coming up with solutions. And here we are in the Trecena of Ajmak. To Noch would suggest looking at both sides in order to come up with a solution. It's like bringing both sides of something together. Understanding perhaps both sides, using your knowledge, your intellect, to see both sides of something. Maybe we could call it a dark side, a light side, a feminine side, a masculine side. It doesn't really matter. It might be two opposing points of view that you use your knowledge, your intellect, in order to bring into one idea, because Noch is about creating a solution to what could be a problem. And so sometimes you aren't going to get the solution by just keeping one focus. We have to look on a broader picture. And this is like saying, let's look at the two opposite points of view in order to come up with a solution. Once again, this is Ajmak. This is forgiveness. This is how we can forgive by understanding both points of view and using them to integrate our knowledge. From two Ajmak, from two Noch, we then go to 3 Tihash. Now once again, here we have Tihash. Tihash being the obsidian blade, it can represent cutting, it can represent division. And here we have it with the number 3. And the number 3 can represent the home, it can also represent what's going on inside of us. Tihash can also represent discernment and healing. So it may be about looking about what's going on inside of you, looking about what's going on inside of your heart, looking about what you can cut away in order to bring healing. Because this is another aspect of the Ajmak Trecena. As we go through this time of forgiveness, as we go through this time of recognizing and loving the scars on our hearts, as it were, for everything that they are, there's also a time of saying, I don't need to carry that with me anymore. And so this is where Tihash comes along and we cut away the things that you don't need to carry within you anymore. Maybe it's an attachment, maybe it's a pattern or something like that that's affecting your home life. And your home life all radiates from here. It's all about what's going on inside of you before it's manifested into the outer world. And so seeing, okay, what can be cut away, what can be left behind. Okay, so once again, the cutting process might not necessarily be the easiest or most comfortable process. Maybe something comes up, maybe something that's highlighted within this Trecena of forgiveness that it's time to cut away and leave behind. Okay, so that's 3 Tihash, and from 3 Tihash we're then going to move into 4 Kawok. So both Tihash and Kawok have their healing elements. Kawok can be seen as the feminine healer. It can be seen as a slightly more passive way. Tihash is with that obsidian blade, cutting out what doesn't need to be there, and sometimes those cuts can be painful, and then Kawok comes along, soothing, compassionately healing. Okay, and it's with the number 4. So this would be kind of like, after we've been through the forgiveness and the identification and then the removal, Kawok comes along to soothe the material world, because the 4 is all about the material. It's about this physical world that we're in. And so 4 Kawok is an excellent day for physical healing, however that might take place. It's also a day of washing away what Tihash cut. So there might be some physical objects which are removed in that time in order to allow the new thing, this new unencumbered, sweet heart to enter the world, to be birthed into the world by removing material obstructions. From 4 Kawok, we're going to go into 5 Achpu. Well, the work doesn't stop, does it? You know, it's kind of like, when you look at what we've encountered so far, we can see that there might be some ups and downs in this Trecena. And we move into 5 Achpu. So we have Achpu representing the divinity, representing the search for the divinity within, representing the quest for the divine, and the ability to see the divinity, maybe the divine plan in it all. With the number 5, and the 5 representing work, and sometimes representing hard work. So this is a time when you might actually have to really try hard to see the divinity behind it all. Now, putting that work in, you know, I often say about how the definition of work is the application of energy to a system. So this is kind of like saying, look, it might not be apparent on the surface of things on the day 5 Achpu what is going on with the divine plan, how we can see it, how we can work with it. So maybe we need to look a bit harder, maybe we need to put some effort into it on this day. So once again, this can certainly be about not taking things for granted, not expecting it just to fall into your lap. Put a little bit of energy in. Maybe again, as I was saying before, time to breathe, ground yourself, and have a look and see if you can look further, see if you can look behind what you're seeing to the divinity behind it all. From 5 Achpu, we then move into 6 Imosh. Now, finally, we get to something which sounds a little bit more reasonable. Imosh, the Nawal of the lake and the Nawal of the waters. Imosh, the Nawal of the dream world and of the collective consciousness. And so I see Imosh very connected to our dreams. It's about being able to bring our dreams into this world. Now, so far in this Trecena, we feel like we've been doing a lot of work. We might have been facing a lot of stuff that we weren't really sure whether we really wanted to face, let's say. Maybe we've been hiding from it a bit or something like that. And here comes 6 Imosh. So Imosh can represent the dream, and the 6 can represent both family and stability. So this is kind of like looking at it and saying, right, okay, this is a day to bring true stability to your dreams. Now, this is not just about manifesting them into the physical plane. It's about manifesting them into the physical plane with the assistance of the divine masculine and divine feminine. And so it's something which is embellished with a particular brilliance, something maybe you hadn't seen before. And it comes through family. This is something else where we see this stability that comes through family, which helps us to manifest our dreams into the world. So 6 Imosh can be a great day about looking for that. Maybe you go and speak to your family about how you can bring stability in. Maybe once all of those distractions of the previous 5 days are out of the way, you come to something which is really stable, and it's like remembering the dream, but remembering it with a little bit of extra emphasis from the divine masculine and divine feminine, that helps you to understand how to truly bring it into the world and how to bring it in a particularly beautiful way. From 6 Imosh, we're then going to go into 7 Ich. So Ich is all about communication. Ich is all about the word. It's the wind, it's the divine breath that comes from us. And Ich is often about our words. It's about how we use our words. Now, Ich days tend to give strength to our words. We often have to be, let's say, mindful of our words on Ich days. The words tend to stick a bit more readily. This is why they can be greatly inspiring, or they can be damaging. So be mindful of the word on an Ich day. And we have it there with the number 7. So 7 representing the top of the pyramid, 7 representing death and endings. I often call 7 Ich the final word. So once again in this Ajmak Trecena, it's kind of like, right, okay, do you want to have that final word? Is this kind of like 7 Ich can be a day on which we are standing on top of the mountain, when we're standing on top of the pyramid, and we're able to draw on all directions in order to give an inspiring speech, maybe. You know, it's kind of like standing on top of the platform giving the speech. That might be one way of looking at it. Another way of looking at it might be about coming to some finality within communication. It might be kind of like a time when you say, right, okay, I need to cut my ties there, or this is no longer serving me, or why don't I just finally get off my chest what it is that I wanted to say to that person or whatever, in order to continue with that forgiveness cycle. So 7 Ich might not exactly be the easiest of days to navigate once again. There may be a lot of conversation, but again, if you can draw on all points of view, then at least you can make this conversation inspiring, and you can help to use it to open up the sweetness of the heart. From 7 Ich, we're then going to go into 8 Achabal. So, I was talking about 6 Imosh being kind of like the stabilizing of the dream, and of course the previous Trecena was the Achabal Trecena, and here we have 8 Achabal. So we have the new concept paired with the old concepts in order to come into a wholeness. And so this is kind of like bringing in a whole new concept. So Achabal days are often seen, they're usually seen as good days, because they're seen as days of conception, days of bringing in something new. And here, the new thing which is coming in is a combination of the brand new and the existing, the brand new and the old, the 1 and the 7 coming together as an 8. So this might be reviewing some old concepts and bringing your new light into them. So it's kind of like bringing the old stuff, you know, maybe it's if we imagine the mind as a filing cabinet, it's kind of like bringing out those old concepts from the back of the drawer, shining the new light of 1 Achabal on them from the 7 Achabal, and coming up with something which is entirely whole. Because sometimes the new concept has the idea, it has the strength, and sometimes the old concept had, you know, had a good structure to it or something like that. So it's kind of like about taking two things, bringing them together and coming up with something new and vital that we can then grow from. From 8 Achabal, we're then going to go into 9 Kat. So, Kat, the net, Kat, the abundance, Kat, the gathering, the bringing together of things, the harvest. Kat is where we gather our physical abundance together. Kat is also about our liberty, our freedom. And the number 9, well, this represents the life. It also represents the divine feminine. Okay? So this is about our liberty in our life. This can also be about drawing together a harvest that we bring from our life. So as we were talking about the Ajmak Trecena, you know, this is 9 Kat, this is kind of like, right, okay, now we're free to move on. Now we're free to live our lives. Now we're free to release that burden, because Kat is about carrying a burden in our net as well, okay? So we harvest. Maybe we were hanging on to something. Maybe we were attached to something. Ajmak Trecena comes in. We release our expectations. We release our guilt, our blame, our shame. And 9 Kat is here to say, right, okay, we've sorted out what's in our net and what we can leave behind. We've released what we no longer need to carry, and now we can walk forward in life, being able to bring the abundance that we were searching for, the abundance that we've been growing, back into our net once again. From 9 Kat, we then move into 10 Can. So 10 Can representing wisdom, Can representing power, and 10 representing community. Okay, so 10 Can is a great day to be sharing our wisdom with our community. 10 Can is a great day to be empowering our community. This joining of hands that we see in the 10, this can also be cooperation. This is about empowering others. It's about using the wisdom, maybe the wisdom that you've learnt through the Ajmak Trecena, maybe the wisdom that you've learnt through life, maybe the wisdom that you're carrying in the net, what remains in the net, is something you can use to empower those around you, to empower your community. And so 10 Can is something that we can see like this. 10 Can is something, it's a great day to go out, look after your community, lend a hand, help to empower. Maybe there's some people that in this Ajmak Trecena are hanging on to stuff they don't need to hang on to. Maybe this is a chance to share our wisdom. And likewise, if we can't quite get over those things that we need to forgive, then maybe 10 Can is where our community can help us in that. Okay, so from 10 Can, we're then going to go into 11 Kamei. So Kamei being the Nawal of death, the Nawal of facing our fears. And the 11 may well be something which is coming in from many directions, having many opportunities. So once again, with this may not be the easiest days to navigate. You may find that there seems to be one thing after another, but know that the spirits of the ancestors, Kamei is a day to sort of like say, well, how would my grandfather, how would my grandmother have approached this? Can I call on their wisdom? Can I call on their understanding to do that? We're still in the Ajmak Trecena. And so it's about forgiveness. How would my grandfather or grandmother have forgiven this? Maybe we need to pull on the understanding of many of our ancestors in order to go through this. But Kamei always brings this promise of transformation, because that's where we need to do it. Once again, it's facing the things that we might fear, going through it and coming out bigger on the other side. From Kamei, from 11 Kamei, we then move into 12 Kech. So Kech is all about nature. It's all about the natural world. It's all about drawing on our strength that comes to us from the natural world. So, you know, as we go through this Ajmak Trecena, once again, this might be a great time to be in nature, to walk in the mountains, to understand, to look back on journeys that you might have made before, to look back on treks, on hikes that you might have made before in your life, to understand through your life experiences what nature does, how nature works. And through this, to strengthen, allow nature to bring strength to you as we move into the final day of the Trecena, which brings great promise. Because from 12 Kech, we then move into 13 Anil. So, as I said, this Ajmak Trecena has the potential for some ups and downs, but 13 Anil is where we get our ripeness. 13 Anil, look at what that's going to. We have Anil, the yellowness, the abundance. We have Anil, the ripening of us, the maturing of us that comes in, combined with the number 13, which represents the ancestors and the spirit world. So this is kind of like the spirit world that ripens us. It's the ripening of the spirit within. And this is the final kind of like objective that we move to through this Trecena of Ajmak. This is the growth that we've been seeking. This is the brilliance, the golden light that we come to. We've finally been through all the work that we've done in the Ajmak Trecena. And 13 Anil, there can be no more brilliant than that, right? This is the light that comes from spirit that brings us to maturity. So, 13 Anil, this is where we can draw on spirit, where we can draw on the ancestors, where we can draw on our own spirit maybe, in order to see how it has ripened through this Trecena. This is the combination of the human heart with the ripening. And so, as we go through into 13 Anil, we understand the ripening of spirit that's come to us. Okay, so that was the Ajmak Trecena. Good luck with that one, and I'll see you again in 13 days' time.